said, he's like, well, what are you talking about? That's not racist. And so he's very good at keeping himself from going to the point where he was going to be officially a Klansman, and that's what made him so successful
Mm-hmm.
because he was always on the edge.
Well, he was the anti-Clinton voice, okay, and
Yes,
he would call him Bubba, and he would do the parody of the Clinton accent, which he did very well, by the way,
really good. Yeah,
and it was entertainment, it was enjoyable, it was
yes,
theater, okay, and you knew it was theater, and while you agree with much of what he said, even if you didn't agree with it, you saw the way he was presenting it, and you had to at least think, you know what, maybe he has a point. And I think a lot of it was because you just listened and you enjoyed it. He would build up to the bottom of the hour, to the top of the hour, whatever, and then he would have the sounder in there that would the music that would come up louder, 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 cut off, and then you had to wait for the top of the hour or the commercials.
yeah.
So he was a showman and he was entertaining. Don Imus was the same way up until the end. He kind of lost it. Laura Ingraham, by the way, got her start on the Don Imus show.
I mean, Laura Ingraham to me represents the most dramatic change because Laura Ingraham was what got me. Most of the reason why I ended up on Jamie's show was because Laura Ingraham was the one I listened to. I watched Glenn Beck on TV.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really like his radio show though at first. Laura Ingraham's radio show was the first one I listened to in this modern era, like after Obama left. And I was like, I listened to her and was like, and I didn't agree with everything she said, but I liked the way that she didn't take herself real seriously. And she had such a certain
Exactly.
humility to her, and there was a certain warmth, and it was like she seemed like a person that I would like to hang out with. And I actually eventually ended up hanging out with her a couple times.
Really.
And oh yeah, yeah, because I mean, because she was very close to Jamie and Jeff Allen,
Mm-hmm.
and there was an event where like from being on Jamie's show, I got invited to a couple of the like the before show meetings,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and you meet whatever, and so the staff would be there, and I hung out with her a couple times. It was funny though because I think she got me mixed up with Kevin Jackson for a minute. And I was like, God darn it, not you too. No, I mean, not that. Come on now.
I'm the other black guy.
The other black guy. Yeah, come on, Laura. You work for Clarence Thomas, man. Give me a break. But she was really cool. She was really, really cool and approachable.
Well, let me tell you when
But
I think Laura Ingraham changed. That's when something happened between her and her producer, Lee Habib.
mhm,
Something happened between the two. And I don't want to turn this into a gossip show, but I suspect there was something going on between the two romantically. And it went south. Lee Habib left, and the show changed. Now, Lee Habib is a radio guy from way back when. In fact, he does a syndicated show. What's it called? American Stories. It's called, and it's on overnights on KMOX. And he
right.
just, I mean, it's very good. It's like telling a story. Just a guy who may have come over from the old country and became a shoemaker, and then took that shoemaker business and made it into international shoe. Okay. A story like that, kind of like an old time
Right.
radio type, almost a drama type they turned it into. But Lee Habib is a wonderful radio guy. And I think because he was her producer, he led her in that direction. Because I've always said with radio or television, but radio especially, because I like the audio format, it doesn't matter what you're going to say. If you've got the most important message for the populace, that the free world depends on them listening to what you have to say, if it's not entertaining, they'll turn it off.
Absolutely.
First and foremost, it has to be entertaining. It just has to be. If it's not, they'll turn it off. And if they turn it off, you're done.
Well, I think the conservative movement changed though, because the conservative movement, you know, I voted for George Bush in 2004. You know,
Mm.
and I wasn't a Republican. I was just a person who looked at both of them, and I didn't have the best feeling about Bush because I felt like he's fed into parts of the Republican Party that I found to be backward. But I looked at him and I looked at John Kerry and I said, no, John Kerry is the epitome of everything that bothers me about the Democrats' pitch to the people. A wishy-washy dude that actually isn't any different than the Republicans are going off on when, but just sort of acts like they're stupid.
Yeah.
That was what his message was: is I voted for the Iraq War. I'm not going to end it, but George Bush is stupid, which is basically kind of what Mitt Romney did in 2012. I felt like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't really, I'm not going to cut anything, but I'm I'm great, and Obama's a bum, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, I hate. I don't care what party you are. I hate that as if you're running for office. I'll give Donald Trump credit. He didn't do that.
No, no.
He did something. He did something completely different.
He did,
But
and it worked the first time, not so much the second.
no,
Unless you
but,
listen to conservative talk radio,
oh
because
my. And see, that's the thing, that concerns me is that when you do that stuff on national radio, I get it. I mean, and national cable, that's one thing. But when you're local in St. Louis and you're talking that mess about the election was stolen,
mm-hmm.
to me, I think that's extremely irresponsible.
Well, it is. It's unbelievably irresponsible. And as I mentioned before, I was a huge Rush Limbaugh fan. I bought his books. I never went to a Rush room or anything like that. I watched his television show when it was on at 2:00 in the morning sometime. But I liked him. At the very end, here's where he lost me. And maybe because he was ill, he was on his chemotherapy, he wasn't thinking straight, or maybe that's just the way he had become. When he made the statement that the coronavirus was made up just to get Trump out of the White House. And I thought, and I know I heard that. I thought, what? Are you serious?
I heard him say it too.
Yeah. I thought you've jumped the shark, man. That's insane. That's beyond wear a mask, don't wear a mask, get the shot, don't wear a shot, don't get the shot. The coronavirus was not invented to get Donald Trump out of the White House. It just wasn't. I mean, he said that, he lost me.
Yeah. I mean, and he doesn't believe it. And I don't, it's almost like wrestling. It's like, wrestling's fake, but there's certain things, like if you see something that's bad enough in wrestling, you'll be like, I'm not watching this shit anymore. You know?
Yeah.
And that's kind of like what it is. It's like, it's fake, but there's only so much of this storyline that you're gonna accept, and then you're like, you know what? I can't do it anymore.
Well, but here's the difference between wrestling and politics or the economy or the election or other things in political radio. If wrestling is fake, and if somebody throws a match, and if it's all just entertainment and drama and smoke and mirrors, so what? I put wrestling in the same category as Coast to Coast, another talk show, which half the stuff that they talk about is baloney, especially when Art Bell was doing it. And that was the absolute best. But it was harmless theater, okay? Trump didn't win the election is not harmless theater. And when conservative talk radio tries to continue to drive that message home, they've lost me, because, I mean, he won the election the first time around because he was the better candidate. He lost the election the second time around because he wasn't the better candidate. I mean, I'm not glad that Joe Biden's president. I didn't vote for him, but he lost the election. UFOs exist, space aliens exist, there is a Bigfoot, vampires exist. Okay, that's all harmless fun.
Yes.
The election was stolen, not so much.
No, and that's really the problem I have, because, for a minute I was listening to Jamie's show during the pandemic. I was working from home all the time, and even then, like my first month, it was kind of went back like his show before the one he's got now, and it had that kind of community feel of the 2010 where it was more his connection with the people, and it
Are
was
you talking about
not
the internet show that he did?
the internet show. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But by the time it got to the Capitol riots, when I'm hearing people say Ashley Babbitt, say her name, I mean, that's clearly a dig towards Black Lives Matter. It's not necessary.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think that kind of thing is unhealthy. It's unhealthy to um, play that game where it's like it's us against Black Lives Matter. You can disagree with Black Lives Matter. I don't think there's any problem with disagreeing with the things they say. Most activists I know are completely disillusioned with that organization. They're seeing people cash in. They're seeing them say crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but to try to make yourself like the White Lives Matter people on the air, that's the kind of thing that's just. I mean, I just can't go for that.
Yeah.
And like you said, that's the difference between that and wrestling.
Yeah.
That's not harm. That's not harmless.
Not harmless at all.
Because you're then they're telling their kids this stuff. You're actually having a negative impact on a lot more people than you might even be aware of. And I mean, the Capitol riot was madness, and it was vile. I don't think it represents all Trump supporters. I don't think it's fair to say Trump supporters are all. I think 99%. I honestly believe 99% of Trump supporters are like, yeah, would never do that.
Well,
But
yeah. I mean, how many people were how many Trump supporters were at the White House demonstrating, and then how many actually stormed the Capitol building?
I mean, I haven't got an exact number.
Yeah, but it was certainly not all of them.
No, it wasn't all of them. No, but you have local talk radio embracing the rioters.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
and I don't get that. And you said something earlier on, but I didn't want to break your train of thought. You had talked about how the conservative movement has changed. I don't think the conservative movement has changed at all. However, I think what we have right now is not the conservative movement. It's something different. I mean, I can't think of a conservative that would ever think it's a good idea to storm the Capitol building. I can't think of a conservative that would ever say, no, the election was stolen. Where's the proof? Well, hey, it's just a conspiracy. Well, you're the president. What do you mean it's a conspiracy? That's not conservatism to me. It's kind of like when I'll use Ronald Reagan as an example. When he used to be a Democrat and then he changed to a Republican. And they said, well, what's the deal? What'd you leave the Democratic Party for? He said, I didn't leave the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party left me. I didn't leave the conservative movement. The conservative movement has left me. Okay. And please don't call me a rhino as I've been called, because I'm not a rhino. I'm not a Republican because I don't relate to them either anymore.
Yeah, that was the beginning of when, and when I say conservative movement, I mean, I don't disagree with you. I consider, Thomas Sowell hasn't changed.
No.
George Will hasn't changed.
William F. What do you think William F. Buckley, if he were still alive, would think?
Well, that's an interesting story. That's a whole nother thing. Maybe we'll get back, because the William F. Buckley story is very interesting about what's going on too, because he himself changed several times.
Well, he in the face of debating and having conversations with people, he could have his mind swayed.
Well, and as far as his conservative ideals, yeah, they're very different than what's going on now. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know what you would call this movement that they have now. I don't know what you saw on Facebook. I call them Tories,
Mm-hmm.
Trump obsequious Republican ideologues.
Mm-hmm.
So I just call them that. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Is they're people who define their political identity on whatever Donald Trump's position is, which is funny because Donald Trump changed his positions to fit in with the Republican Party. So who the hell is in control? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, that's really what the rhino thing. That's when I realized there was a problem, and that came about really came out only a few months after I started